What if the true heart of this war beats not at the front, but in the shadows, where shattered supply chains and flickering energy grids decide who survives the coming winter? Last night, relentless waves of Russian missiles and drones descended upon Odessa, the city's industrial arteries and crucial depots igniting in a storm of fire and thunder. For hours, the sky pulsed with explosions. Fires raged, painting the horizon as far as the eye could see, dozens upon dozens of kilometers. This was no accident. Across Ukraine, from Dnipro to Chernihiv, alarms wailed and infrastructure burned, far from the trenches that global headlines obsess over. Civilians huddled in basements, children clutching toys as social media feeds overflowed with images of burning skies and trembling voices. Fear spreads like wildfire, and with it, a sense that the very ground beneath Ukraine's defenses is shifting. Morale stumbles as confidence in the steady flow of supplies slips away, hour by hour, day by day. But the real shift goes deeper. Russia has recalibrated its crosshairs. Gone are the days when only frontline troops were targeted. Now, missile barrages focus on Ukrainian logistics, fuel depots, railway hubs, energy plants, even evacuation corridors for the wounded. The goal is clear and ruthless: strangle reinforcements and supplies before they ever reach the front, ensuring that soldiers have neither the means nor the morale to fight on. This is the hidden contest that could define the war's outcome. In this new phase, whoever controls the flow of ammunition, warmth, and power may ultimately decide who survives the winter. Those fixated on the shifting lines of territory risk missing the real story, where logistical warfare shapes every headline and the fate of millions hangs in the balance. But what exactly is driving this tactical shift, and how are Ukrainian commanders scrambling to respond? To understand the stakes, let's follow the supply lines, straight to the heart of the conflict. Last night, Odessa's skyline became a warning in fire and thunder. Residents peered from their windows as wave after wave of drones and missiles split the darkness, turning the horizon into a jagged, burning scar. Each explosion hammered home the truth. Nowhere is truly safe now, not even cities far from the front. Odessa's port facilities, lifelines for both the military and the economy, were battered. Flames and smoke erupted from key logistics hubs, casting an orange glow that could be seen for many kilometers. The opening strikes came hard and fast. Odessa and its outlying regions were battered by drones, now unmistakable by their relentless, high-pitched whine. These drones, nicknamed Guerin by locals, have become infamous for their ability to evade radar and strike with chilling precision. They targeted port facilities, vast industrial parks, and fuel depots. Schools, hospitals, and even historic districts have suffered collateral damage as the attacks become more frequent and indiscriminate. Ammunition storage sites, railway junctions, and supply convoys all suffered direct hits. This was a coordinated offensive, aimed not just at the present, but at Ukraine's ability to fight tomorrow. Yet the barrage did not stop with Odessa. Reports flooded in from Sumy, Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, and Chernihiv. Here too the pattern was unmistakable. Supply centers, repair shops, and strategic railway lines all took punishing, deliberate hits. Ukrainian logistics, already stretched, were pummeled again and again as explosions shattered the quiet of night. Each blast echoed the same message: nowhere is beyond reach. For civilians, the impact is immediate and raw. Sirens wailed into the darkness, forcing families to scramble for shelter. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by adrenaline and fear. Even those spared direct hits saw their lives upended. Schools shuttered, transport halted, and a tense quiet settling over city streets. The constant threat gnaws away at resilience, making every night a test of nerves. This is a conflict fought as much in minds as on maps. Every new detonation is a reminder that safety is fleeting, and routine has been shattered. The endless repetition breeds exhaustion, jumpiness, and a sense of creeping vulnerability. When disaster becomes normal, faith in air defenses, and in tomorrow, slowly frays. With each attack, Russia is not only destroying supplies or infrastructure, it is striking at morale, eroding confidence in protection, and planting doubts about Ukraine's endurance. The deepest risk lies not just in what is lost tonight, but in the shadow cast over the will to rebuild tomorrow. But this relentless campaign is not just about destruction. It signals a new phase in the war. The strategy behind these strikes could reshape the conflict as winter approaches. This war is no longer about lines on a map. Beneath the headline images of ruined streets and battered front lines, a quieter but more dangerous campaign is unfolding. A battle to sever Ukraine's lifelines before the world realizes the rules have changed. Let's step back in history for a moment. In the Second World War, the Allied bombing of German railways and fuel depots was pivotal. Trains stopped running, tanks ran dry, and whole armies were stranded. The destruction of infrastructure was not as dramatic as the storming of Berlin, but it was just as decisive. The same principle is at work today. Cripple the enemy's ability to move, to supply, to repair, and victory may follow without a single shot fired at the front. Russian strategy has shifted. Strikes now target the arteries that keep Ukraine's military and society alive. Attacks are meticulously coordinated to disrupt supply chains, choke off fuel and ammunition, and cripple the railways that keep resources moving east. The aim is not just destruction, but paralysis. In the cities of Sumy and Kharkiv, storage depots and fuel sites burn, their flames visible for miles. Russian drones and missiles hunt Ukrainian air defense crews near the borders, forcing constant relocations and exposing key units to sudden, precise strikes. These aren't random blows. They are calculated moves to erode Ukraine's ability to respond. Pokrovsk has become the newest flashpoint. Russian assault groups have advanced deep, taking Ukrainian prisoners and threatening to surround the defenders. If the industrial northwest falls, Ukraine risks losing a vital logistics hub, an event that could unravel supply lines overnight. Morale dips, safe corridors shrink, and reinforcements struggle to get through. For Ukraine's forces, each day brings new danger. Wounded soldiers sometimes wait more than 48 hours for evacuation, as convoys dodge drones and artillery. The risk extends beyond lives. Precious Western equipment is increasingly stranded, damaged, or destroyed before it can even reach the front. Energy infrastructure is under relentless attack. Ukrainian substations and networks are now ringed by concrete, sandbags, and hastily built defenses, testaments to both vulnerability and resilience. These fortifications come at a steep cost. They sap resources and rattle public morale, yet they also serve as symbols, warning the enemy, reassuring civilians, and justifying the mounting expense of keeping the country running. Look at history again. During the Korean War, attacks on supply lines and infrastructure regularly shifted the balance, with bridges and railways becoming prime targets. Each destroyed span forced armies to reroute, delay, or halt, sometimes for weeks. The echoes of those strategies are now heard in Ukraine, as each strike on a substation or depot ripples through the entire war effort. All signs point to a brutal reality. The side that masters logistics and energy can choke its opponent into submission. Here, collapse may come not through sweeping offensives, but by systematically suffocating the enemy's ability to fight, move, and survive. With winter looming, the tempo of this hidden war is only accelerating. Both Ukraine and Russia now face a race against time and against exhaustion, as the battle for supply lines and power grids intensifies. Each move in this conflict is a gamble. A single decision could shatter an entire front or set off a new phase of war. Consider the Battle of Stalingrad. The encircled German Sixth Army was not defeated by direct assault alone, but by starvation and the relentless breakdown of supply. The lesson remains: logistics win wars. As autumn matures, both Russian and Ukrainian commands race to recalibrate. The Russians, after months of relentless shelling, change tempo. Now, they pause between barrages, prioritizing reconnaissance and pinpointing high-value targets. These pauses are not hesitation, but deliberate patience, waiting for the perfect moment to strike at Ukrainian logistical arteries and the energy network. On the Ukrainian side, lifelines are reinforced at a furious pace. With Western assistance, shipments of ammunition, armored vehicles, and spare parts arrive in waves, funneled into newly fortified depots and rail yards. However, this influx draws Russian attention, turning these critical nodes into luminous targets for surveillance and missile strikes. The very channels meant to sustain Ukraine risk becoming killing grounds if the enemy times their attack. Western convoys push openly across Poland and Romania. Their scale is impossible to hide. The message is clear: volume over secrecy. This audacity challenges Russia to respond, but it also risks presenting irresistible targets, especially if Russian scouts identify a moment of maximum vulnerability. Military strategists debate feverishly. Should Russia unleash a major attack now, hoping to tear apart stretched supply lines, or wait until Ukrainian stockpiles are at their peak, risking a more devastating blow? Every option is a risk. Strike too early, and the full impact may be lost. Wait too long, and Ukraine may harden its defenses or relocate key assets beyond easy reach. Inside Ukraine's battered cities, the struggle sharpens. In places like Pokrovsk and Kherson, urban combat rages block by block. The fate of each neighborhood depends not only on firepower, but on which side can keep fighters fed, armed, and treated. Logistics, not just bullets, decide who holds and who withdraws. Odessa, once vibrant, now lives beneath a shadow. Civilian administration shifts stir fears of greater repression and military rule. Residents brace for harsher controls and the chilling prospect of siege as winter nears, uncertainty growing heavier with each passing week. From space, Ukraine's energy grid tells its own story. Satellite images show new trenches, barriers, and anti-drone defenses sprawling across critical sites. These are not short-term measures. Leaders on both sides brace for a war of attrition, where simply keeping the lights on may decide the future as much as battlefield victories. The stakes are immense. A single miscalculation, whether in timing, targets, or tactics, could cost a city, a vital supply route, or even the survival of the nation itself. As winter closes in and supply lines stretch thin, the conflict's tempo is poised to shift yet again. The next Russian strike could redefine not just the battlefield, but the entire shape of the war. The front line is never the full story, and often, the most crucial signs are hidden in plain sight. In modern war, territory gained or lost is only one piece of a far bigger puzzle. The true sources of power lie in the steady flow of supplies, the vibration of generators in the dark, and the unseen journeys of fuel trucks threading through the night. Victory is shaped as much by these quiet arteries of logistics and energy as by the drama of artillery or the shock of explosions lighting up your screen. Those images of burning buildings and shattered bridges seize attention. Yet the camera cannot capture the slower, deadlier contest, the battle for logistics. When fuel depots erupt in flames, supply trains are halted, or electricity grids flicker out, armies rarely collapse from a single strike. Instead, they are slowly starved, forced to a crawl as their lifelines fray, until whole systems grind to a standstill. This is how wars are truly won or lost, not only at the front, but at the fragile edge of the supply chain. To grasp how the conflict is evolving, you need to look further than the headlines. It is not just about a city falling or a new line being drawn on the map. The deeper questions are, who can feed their soldiers, repair their armor, and keep their convoys rolling? Who can withstand weeks of drone attacks on their power and rail networks, and still keep hospitals lit and trains moving? Predicting the next turn means watching not only the fighting, but also the repairs, the fuel shipments, and perhaps above all, the spirit of those defending the line. Russia and Ukraine are both adapting in real time. Russia is using rapid intelligence and precision strikes to target ports, rail hubs, and storage sites, the beating heart of Ukraine's resistance. Ukraine, in turn, is investing in layered air defenses, lightning-fast repairs, and a steady flow of public messaging to keep morale high and allies engaged. Both sides are learning, improvising, and racing to outlast the other as winter draws near. For anyone watching, Analyst or civilian, the most telling signals are subtle. A rerouted convoy, a new fortification appearing overnight, a power station blinking out for days, a sudden evacuation. These faint tremors reveal the true condition of the war. If you focus only on shifting front lines, you will miss the deeper conflict. The war for infrastructure, for logistics, and for the will to keep fighting after the lights go out. In the end, investment in protection, infrastructure, and psychological resilience can matter as much as tanks or missiles. A city that recovers from a blackout, a brigade that fights on after its supplies are threatened, a population that refuses to break. These are what decide who endures the coming storms. To miss these underlying trends is to risk more than just misunderstanding the news. It means being blindsided by sudden shifts in the conflict, miscalculating your response, or being seduced by easy narratives that dominate social media. The stakes are immense, not just for armies, but for every leader, investor, and citizen who needs to read the currents beneath the headlines. As Russian tactics shift toward crippling Ukraine's logistical core, understanding these invisible battles becomes essential. The next phase will test not just firepower, but the endurance of entire societies as winter approaches. Let's consider some practical steps that Ukraine and its allies can take to fortify these lifelines. First, investing in mobile repair teams, engineers and technicians who can move quickly to restore rail lines, substations, and pipelines, has proven vital in past wars. In World War II, Soviet forces famously rebuilt bridges and tracks overnight, keeping the Red Army supplied under fire. Today, similar tactics, using prefabricated structures, modular transformers, and rapid response crews, can blunt the impact of Russian strikes. Second, decentralizing supply depots and energy nodes can make Ukraine's logistics less vulnerable. By spreading out fuel and ammunition stockpiles, using underground bunkers, and creating dummy targets to draw enemy fire, Ukraine can force Russia to expend more resources for less effect. The British in the Blitz created fake factories and airfields, diverting German bombs away from critical infrastructure. Modern decoys and camouflage can serve a similar purpose. Third, strengthening local resilience is key. Community-based energy solutions, such as solar panels, small wind generators, and local water purification, can keep hospitals and shelters operating even when the main grid fails. After Hurricane Katrina, communities in New Orleans that had invested in backup power and decentralized resources fared better than those relying solely on central utilities. Ukraine's city councils can learn from these examples, investing in redundancy and self-sufficiency. Finally, maintaining morale is as critical as repairing rails or power lines. During the siege of Sarajevo, the city's survival depended not only on food and water, but on radio broadcasts, concerts, and public art that kept hope alive. In Ukraine today, leaders use social media, community events, and international solidarity campaigns to remind civilians that they are not alone, and that perseverance matters as much as firepower. The war's outline is shifting. Are you watching closely enough? While headlines fixate on advances and retreats, the real contest is being waged in shadow. Recent Russian strikes go beyond capturing land. They target the arteries of Ukraine's resistance, supply routes, fuel depots, railway lines, and the energy web that keeps cities from going dark. Every fuel shortage, every sabotaged rail, each blackout. These are the silent blows that can turn the tide. Both sides know that starving the enemy of ammunition, power, and safe transit is more decisive than any single firefight. The true battle now is over who can endure the coming winter's pressure. If you watch from afar and cling to familiar storylines, you risk missing the next reality. Morale is tested not only by explosions, but by cold barracks, empty shelves, and the slow erosion of hope when help arrives too late. This is the new front line. Failing to recognize the importance of logistics and morale means missing the moves that will decide the war and how the world interprets its progress. Investments, forecasts, and reputations all hang on reading these signals before they become impossible to ignore. So, as new offensives erupt and headlines swirl, ask yourself, What are you overlooking? Who is truly shaping tomorrow's outcome, and how? As winter's shadow stretches across Ukraine, the battle in the shadows intensifies. The next move on the chessboard may not come with a bang, but with the quiet flicker of lights going out, or the silent halt of a train. In this war, it is not just the armies, but the arteries of supply and the resilience of a people that will decide who endures and who fades into history.